Verasity Trias and Multivac are each screaming up with Bitcoin and Ethereum's move. Let's take a look at how high each of these will probably go. Are you ready? Let's get it. I think the name of the game, starting off with Verasity, is going to be the daily 200 EMA for most altcoins before you're going to generally get some type of pullback to try to find a higher low. And that would be my main idea. And typically for these coins, you're going to have the daily 200, which is this orange line, align with a horizontal, which is a little bit below this horizontal. That is the middle of the point of control for the happy range box. And the altcoins of these three, each of these, entered the bleed box recently. Each is above the bleed box besides Trias. Trias is trying to get out of here, but the general idea is this. Name of the game would be the daily 200 and or the point of control for the happy range box for all three of these coins. I would keep my eye out on that. Now, in my last analysis, I did not see a Bitcoin and Ethereum pump coming quite yet. I had the assumption that with these trading channels, the way that Verasity in each of these would break out would be walking across the point of control of the bleed box until you got to the top line and then bust out, which would have taken until March 1st. Clearly, what happened was it walked along the point of control and busted above both the origin line here and this trading channel. Now that these trading channels have been broken above, I will go ahead and remove them from the price. So now we're just staring at the macro range that has got Verasity since March of last year. It's a pretty established range, and if Verasity Price does go above the daily 200 EMA, it'll likely have some pretty big trouble heading in at 3.8 cents. Up to 4.4. I would highly doubt it goes much above 4.4 before a major pullback, significant pullback to form a higher low. Now, and again, those were pennies, so 3.8 cents, which would technically be 0.038 to 0.044. That's what this point of control green box is within the happy range. However, I have a feeling that it might have a pullback before it gets into this range, even if Bitcoin were to go up to 45K, because the daily 200 is going to be a big deal. But last time it revisited, see how price went up to it? It did wick above the daily 200 to touch the top of the point of control, and something like that could happen again, which might be my big, my top guess for this is a wick above to test the bottom. So wick above the daily 200 to test the bottom of this at 3.8 cents and then form a higher low. Now, where will Verasity find a higher low? Well, I mean, typically there are a couple ways it can go about it. It forms a higher low somewhere on a 45-degree angle, just like the rest of crypto. But the main question is, with that basis, how many pumps will it get before it does that? Sometimes you can go on 2 and 3 pumps, and instead of coming here and then come all the way back down, it'll take a long time to get to that 45-degree angle from this low. Sometimes you can have it's 2 months later where it revisits this, and therefore price keeps going higher and higher and higher for that time. I would suspect, though, that a good pickup, assuming Bitcoin and Ethereum stay strong, throughout the next couple months, if that were the case, which is actually not my main analysis, I'm unsure at this time. But if you saw, so draw a 45-degree angle here, which happens to align with the major origin line of Verasity, over the next couple months, assuming it comes to visit this while Bitcoin and Ethereum are relatively strong, that would probably be a good pickup point. And if it happens sooner than later, it could come all the way back down into the bleed box. But it almost looks like it's going to happen in the month of March, maybe mid-March, when it comes to revisit this. And I would imagine it might hit the point of where these two different ranges, the bleed box and happy range. That would be my main guess. If it hits the 45-degree angle right where this origin line is, see that origin line, plus the two boxes, the two ranges converge. And so I would guess, potentially late March is when that would happen, but I would expect this to stay above and keep mostly charging up, forming some type of base up here before it then rolls over a little bit to do that. I would say late March. So this move could have more in it. It might get choppy up here. And again, the main point would be, I think, 3.8 cents might be a pretty good target for profit taking on this. and then look for a higher low to form throughout the month of March. And now we're going to jump into Multivac next. Make sure you give me a quick thumbs up, help your content producer so I can continue making videos for you. And since these are a time-sensitive nature, make sure that you've hit the bell and selected all alerts. It's going to help me to deliver time-sensitive information to you. And while you're at it, take a quick moment to leave me a quick comment down below to help out the algo. It can be a random comment. My favorite random comment from the month of January was soft eggs and somebody talking about his mom's stew. There have been a couple good ones this month. Let's see who can come out the winner. It doesn't have to be just from the Bitcoin video. And so let's dive in and check out what Multivac and Trias are getting ready to do. Follow me on Twitter, Closest Verasity 2, Closest Verasity 2 for frequent Bitcoin and other cryptocurrency price updates. Turn on your camera and microphone and ask me questions directly and live up to 8 times a week. Links to the description section. Links to the Discord community within the description section of all my videos. If joining an online community is not your thing, but you want exclusive content above and beyond what I offer on YouTube, click the join button below this video and another video will pop up explaining your options to you. So my analysis for MTV is going to be pretty similar. The point of, or these channels have been broken out so I can essentially, get rid of them right now. But just note that the breakout did happen for this right at where the bleed box and the happy range align. You see that? And it was an origin line. So let's zoom in here. You have a lot of confluence there. This run, this run could be pretty aggressive. I'm surprised it actually hasn't outpaced Veracity's a little bit because you had the breakout from here exactly at this at where the two major ranges converge, and you have this origin line way back here. This could be a pretty powerful move. But I think structurally, though, let me get rid of these channels. I think structurally, roughly the same thing could play out on Verasity and Multivac, obviously with different price points, but I think the structure will be nearly identical. I could see something in a bullish sense, I could see something like a wick up. Let me make that a bit smaller. I could see it wick past the daily 200, which I think is the name of the game, something to focus on. A wick past the daily 200 to hit this 1.2 cent bottom of the point of control of the happy range. So this is the totally different ranges, right? The bleed box is one range, happy range, which we're back in, is another one. And so each of them has the point of control. You can see here that the bleed box, this is the point of control. This is there's the triangle. Yeah, that's a triangle, Tim. That rectangle right there. It could, so this point of control for the happy range is likely going to have the same effect on price for Multivac. And that's, so the price points for that would be, 1.2 cents roughly. However, the daily 200 could end up being the rejection point, which would be about 1.15 cents. So 0.0114, 0.0115, something to that effect might be what is needed before a higher low, and then you try to get into this point of control. That's what I would be looking for Multivac. And let's see if we can get anything else on here. Squeeze place to look at. Let's put on the 10 and 21. And let's actually make this a fill so you can get an idea of how, how far this could go, especially if Bitcoin were to help sustain these pushes. Let's put the daily 10. Yeah, perfect. All right. And let me take off the macro range. You can see here that these just flipped. Let me take off price. So the daily 10, which is the top line here, when it gets above the daily 21, it flips green. So it goes from red to green, and let's zoom way in. You can see that it just flipped green, right? Now, zoom out, typically these, and that's happening on Bitcoin as well. And these moves typically have some follow through more than this. Here it flipped green and it immediately made lower lows. You need to watch out because something like this could be what happens on Bitcoin and most of other altcoins as well. It could be, but in general terms, you do get a good amount of play with the flipping of this being green. And, this probably was a month or so. Yeah, that was about a month. I would expect at least the month of February to stay green. Something to this effect could be roughly what price ends up doing. And how does that align with my overall analysis? Let's put back on the macro range and put that sucker in there and check it out. Now let's put back on the daily 200 to see how this aligns, and that would be this this flipping green for at least a month. And look how that fractal happens to align with my suggestion of the point of control being the area of interest here. Let's put price back on and put on the daily 200. Check that out. So it uses the day. So in this fractal, it uses the daily 200 first as resistance, comes back down, and then after forming a higher low, roughly at a 45-degree angle, it's a little steeper than a 45. Then it gets into the point of control, and then finally comes down to make that 45-degree angle higher low, a more definitive one in the middle of that projector tool. And honestly, something like this might be about exactly what happens. Now, whether or not Bitcoin and all of cryptocurrency at that point in March, let's loosely assume March is the pullback on a monthly candle basis, whether or not it sticks its landing and then keeps going, let's not predict that far in the future, but rather just for the month of February, I think something like this could happen. Generally stays bullish with some wicks down, and yeah, focus on the daily 200 and that price point of 1.2 cents. For the first little rejection before it then tries higher after cooling off. Now let's go on to Trias. Trias is not in its happy range, so its pump right now is a lot less. I guess it had to come up from a little bit lower, but it has barely gotten out of its channels. You see this? These channels, it's barely out of it. I would fully suspect, though, that Trias is able to get above the bleed box in general because the other two coins have done it, and I would assume Trias will be able to as well. I think Trias could, get all the way up to $9.15, something to that effect, just like the other analyses. However, note that daily 200 is not at anywhere close to a point of control, which would be in the middle of the happy range box. So you need to make note that the daily 200, the analysis for Trias is a little bit different because the daily 200 is closer to the bottom of the happy range and the top of the bleed box closer to $8. Therefore, $8. If Trias takes a while to get up there, allowing the daily 200 to come a little bit closer, it could have quite a bit of trouble getting above both of an EMA and an important horizontal at the same time. However, if it can come up here like this and so what could happen in a bullish sense for the month of February is that Trias comes up and goes to the daily 200 and then comes down and uses the bleed box as support and then makes a strong move up. That could easily happen, and that could propel it up easily to $14. And that would be the top of the point of control for this. That would be one price path if Bitcoin can stay bullish in March, which I do have my doubts about. However, for the month of February, I would definitely be focusing, instead of the point of control and the daily 200, I would be focusing on the line of about $8.20, maybe $8.16, which is the bottom of the happy range. And I think that could be your resistance point along with the daily 200, as opposed to being more similar to Verasity and Multivac up here, because it's got a long way to go, and the daily 200 is much lower. And that is what I'm looking at for Trias. And if you want me to give you the level of the point of control, I would say it's somewhere along the lines of, it might be too low, might be up a little higher. There you go. If Trias were to make its way all the way up to 1170, if that were to happen, that would probably be a pretty good profit taking point. But notice that this range is a little bit more. Let's make it about like there. A couple times price did come up just shy of the point of control. For example, right here with a lower high and this higher high came up just shy. So it might tap out around $11. If it were to get up there, that might be a good time, to take profits if you're in this move, and then look for a higher low or to like potentially 100 bag. Not financial advice, not a financial advisor. Definitely talking about Pokemon cards, but for the month, I don't think that would happen in February. That would be if Bitcoin could stay bullish in March and April. For February, either about $8.16 or the daily 200 coming in maybe at $8.70. That would be, some profit taking points before buying into a pullback, and then seeing if it can charge up based off of a Bitcoin analysis. And for each of these three coins, it really is important that you've watched my Bitcoin analysis, because I gave the top three, in my opinion, most likely price paths for the month of February, and you can essentially make the assumption that, okay, I have a general understanding of how Bitcoin might move, and make the connection to which one of these three coins is your favorite, whichever ones you follow. It'll probably move fairly similarly with the restrictions within this chart, the daily 200 and the point of control for the Multivac and Verasity, or the daily 200 plus the top of the bleed box coming in at about $8.16 for Trias. Go ahead and click this video if you didn't check out my Bitcoin update from today, and click this video if you want to learn how to set up a chart like mine. It's a trading view tutorial, perhaps the best 28 minutes that you can spend if you're new to crypto. Click the circle if you're new to my channel, and you just got Tummified worldwide. Peace.